Oke, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mahasiswa sekalian, ya walaupun final test sudah berlalu, kita akan tetap mengadakan kuliah tamu. Kali ini tamu kita adalah Prof. Azlizam dari Universiti Putra Malaysia. Beliau adalah the Dean of Forestry Faculty ya, Prof ya. Ya, dekan dari Fakultas
Ya,
Fakultas Kehutanan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Ya, kali ini beliau akan memberikan materi tentang Sustainable Agritourism from the concept to application, empowering rural communities through integrated master planning and local entrepreneurship. Ya, eh, walaupun mungkin ini keluar sedikit ya, tapi saya kira ini merupakan materi yang sangat berharga, apalagi kita setelah ini banyak masuk ke apa industri kita itu sekarang mulai ke tiga pilar utama ESG, environmental, kemudian sustainable sustainability and governance ya, social economic and governance ya. Oleh karena itu harap kalian banyak mengambil manfaat dari kuliah tamu ini karena ini bukan kuliah tamu yang eh, apa mudah sering untuk kita temui. Baik, Prof. Azizam, saya persilahkan waktu untuk memberikan materi berikutnya. Nanti kalau ada pertanyaan, bagaimana, Prof? Apakah bisa langsung ditulis di chat? Ya,
boleh. Bisa dia di penghujung ke kuliahnya nanti bisa di ke question and answer ya.
oke, oke, oke. Terima kasih, Prof. Silakan.
Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, selamat pagi semua. Ataupun mungkin selamat siang di Indonesia ya. Dan terima kasih juga kepada Prof. Azizah dan juga tim atas aturan arrangement untuk kita berkongsikan kuliah pada pagi ini. Dan waktu ini masih di London masih 7:30 pagi, Ibu. Dan mungkin di Indonesia dan Malaysia sudah sore, sudah petang gitu ya. Jadi kita teruskan saja apa nama tu kita punya topik yang kita akan kongsikan pada pagi ini seperti mana yang disebutkan oleh Ibu Profesor sebentar tadi adalah berkaitan dengan sustainable agritourism. Ini kuliahnya kuliah apa, Bu? So boleh saya nanti diframekan perbincangannya begitu.
Ya, kuliahnya sebetulnya adalah research methodology, but saat ini kami memang research kami itu banyak ke sustainability, begitu, Prof. Aminar.
Jadi okey, baik, maklum. Jadi saya akan cuba untuk aturkan perbincangan ataupun perkongsian ini sekitar berkaitan dengan research dan juga metodologi yang kita laksanakan dalam konsep untuk melaksanakan to develop sustainable agritourism based on our experience ya. Dan kenapa ni ya? Bentar ya. Boleh nampak ya? Bergerak slide-nya?
Ya, Prof. Ya.
Okay, we are moving to the second slide. So actually, this trip, I spent about 2 weeks traveling between countries from Greece to England to have engagement and also academics programs. I presented a paper last week in
Itu
Greece.
buat AM aja. Ya, AM ada apa?
Okay. The paper presented was something related to illegal wildlife trafficking. That one is beyond the scope of the presentation today. And then I have another presentation actually after the conference online also with a team from IPB. That one we deliver a kuliah, about 2 hours kuliah to touch on the topics of sustainable recreation and ecotourism. So what we're going to discuss this morning, more or less in line, but I try to reframe the presentation to match the expectation and topics of this lecture. I mean, from the audience, we understand that most of you are taking this course on research method. So As a starting, I would like to say that tourism is kind of something that not only fun to do, but also something that beneficial to all involved. Whether you are involved as a tourist yourself, or you are the host of the communities, or you are the company that conducted packages to deliver tourism activities and so on and so forth. So, um, the best thing about traveling is you never know what you're going to experience. You know, this is kind of eye-opening, something that can we observe on the ground. That hopefully from the experience we can gain something that going to change our life perspective and to change the way we see the world. So in this regard, agrotourism also offering the same opportunity for us to go and see the world while we're going to experience a new things that beneficial to you. You yourself, I mean, as a person, we need to travel. As a person, we need always to involve in recreations, to recharge ourselves, to regain our energy, to have better things, to think of the quality of life, the meanings of life itself, and so on. Okay, and this picture was taken, I think, 2 years back. This was end of 2024 when we involved another set of course with Mataram. At the time, we were traveling to Lombok, to Mataram, and to deliver another set of lectures. Yeah. So what we going to touch this morning is basically going to be divided into four. The first one, we're going to touch on the concept and global trend, what we have in agritourism. Some of the challenges that could be becoming a set of problem statements for any research that we could be interested in. Ya, all the challenges, cabaran-cabaran yang mungkin boleh diambil sebagai satu kaedah permulaan as a starting point for us to do our research. So I guess you have discussed this in your lecture, in your class, on how important it is to have a very strong problem statement before we can proceed to design a research to tackle, to address such issues. Yeah. And then we're going to touch on the strategic actions. This is could be related to your methodology, okay, in terms of how you carry out in for developments to address the issues and also to have some sort of very tangible outcomes that can be beneficial to all. Okay, in this regard, I'm going to deliver and discuss about a few things that we are facing as a challenge we are facing in order for us to plan, in order for us to develop a sustainable agritourism. Okay. So the concept of agritourism, or many people they would like to call it as agrotourism, but the actual correct terms, uh, panggilan yang sebenarnya yang sebetulnya adalah agritourism, because this is tourism based on agriculture resources and based on agriculture activities. So when we talk about agritourism, we cannot separate ourselves from the importance of community-based agritourism. The initiative, the programs of agritourism must be ideally must be led by the community themselves. In order for us to have sustainable agritourism, this is the most important thing, critically. Yeah, this is not something that we normally do. I think it's very common in Malaysia. I'm sure this is also common in some parts of Indonesia, whereby the government will impose program. Yeah, the government will suggest or propose, or even some in some cases the government will force the community to carry out agritourism. This is something that is becoming a challenge because when you have some kind of a top down, ya, arahan-arahan dari pemerintah untuk melaksanakan agritourism is very difficult for us to carry on with that kind of program for long run, for long terms. So it becoming an issue on sustainability of the industry itself. So what I mean to say is that it's very important for us to have a ground up approach, something that being initiated and also carried out by the community itself to have a more long-running program or sustainable industry for the community. Okay, and in any efforts for us to develop agritourism, there are three components that is very important. The community themselves, as indicated in the slides, community ownerships, community leaderships, community operation. This is something that need to be done before we can carry on with the future development. So in a way, the foundations of any sustainable agritourism must be based on the community themselves. Okay, that is why the sense of ownerships from the community themselves must be there before we can have a very good and sustained agritourism. So we are talking about how we can train local community as a host, as a storytellers, as the stewardship of the resources. The second components of this interplay between parties to ensure sustainable agritourism is agriculture resources. Now, we understand this. All over the world, a lot of farmlands been converted into development, into hotels, into perusahaan, kilang-kilang ataupun industrial area. There are farmlands converted into highways. There are farmland converted into new townships and so on and so forth. We have seen this in many, many places. For example, places that I have visited in Indonesia, in Bali, for example, yeah, a lot of paddy fields, okay, bendang-bendang, ataupun sawah-sawah yang telah pun ditukarkan menjadi kawasan development for tourism. This happened also in Malaysia, whereby a lot of paddy fields had been converted into housing schemes. Yeah, so this is kind of a threat, ancaman, for in the not only on tourism but also on the questions on food security. Okay. So this becoming an apparent, if I can recall what we did about 20 years back in United States. I was in United States for 7 years, and I worked for Michigan Travel or Michigan Tourisms for a good 2 years, whereby we did a lot of agri-tourism based activities, including the concept of rural tourism in the States, in US. They are very, very keen to the concept of farm vacations. Yeah, berehat, bercuti, liburan di kawasan-kawasan ladang. Okay, with all those activities, we meant that they are not staying there for only a couple of hours, but they spend sometimes for 4 days to 5 days doing different and many, many activities. Okay. The third component to ensure the sustainability of the industry in tourism infrastructure. Okay. Tourists cannot spend the money if there are no infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure? First thing, the foremost is of course the accessibility. Okay. How to travel to remote areas, rural areas, to kawasan-kawasan desa jika tiada jalan raya, for example. There is no highway, there is no roads, there is no bridges, okay, jambatan-jambatan, titian-titian, to kesampaian, to access, to reach the destination. We need that. And also we need accommodation, we need lodgings, we need facilities and services to support the activities. Okay. All right. So in terms of the holistic ecosystem benefit, what are the benefits that come with the agritourism? Of course, we can see that economics benefit. I think this is quite common that we have discussed, even you have discussed in your classes. The social benefits, how it can create some kind of business opportunities, employment. But what kind of employment? We have to be careful here. Some of these a bad example that we have faced for the last few years in Malaysia is how we can create the meaningful, the real business, the real job opportunities. Orang kampung kebiasaannya akan diambil bekerja sebagai home cleaners, okay, housekeepers, security, untuk menjaga keselamatan. That's it, and that's it. Okay, not much that we can proud of in terms of the real employment. Okay, some employment that bring in the real money, big money to the local communities. Okay, if we just only created very basic job for local community, that is not what we imagine here for agritourism. We are imagining in the end, orang kampung, masyarakat desa, Some of the anak-anak muda mungkin akan menjadi manager, can be recreation manager, can be operation manager, can be the general manager. That is the real job opportunity that we are talking about. So, the lack of real job opportunity is something that becoming a constraint for many initiative that with the goals to create sustainable agritourism. So, another things that we are quite concerned is on the environmental benefits. We have seen this over tourism issues. Okay, this is something that some of you might be interested in to carry on as part of your research on to create the problem statements to identify the problem with overcrowding of tourists in certain area. So I would like to touch this again in the some of the methods that we carry out in terms of determining, in terms of deciding what is the best number of tourists that we can allow to come and to visit one place, especially to remote and rural area, whereby a lot of changes, a lot of impact can be happenings because of the number of tourists coming into the area. Ya, kalau terlalu ramai orang datang seperti di Bali, yes, we have seen that overcrowding, over tourism as well. We have visited some of the candi, some of the temples in Borobudur, in Prambanan. We can see also the huge number of crowd there. So this also can bring positive and negative impact on the environmental, socials, and economics to the local communities. Okay. So these are the things that we have seen. Just now I have discussed about the macro, yeah. Satu what's that? Yeah, the impact that is in a grander scale, in a bigger scale. But we also must be able to see what are the problems that is facing by the local operator on the ground, small scales. Okay. In terms of the planning approach, what we have on the ground actually now is the ad hoc and top down. This I have mentioned just now, yeah, top down. Top down means that arahan ataupun instructions from the government, from kabupaten, from regional, from the central government to say that, oh, we need to develop this kampung, this desa to become an agritourism destination. So, without any real basic foundations, all the support from the communities, from masyarakat desa, then becoming a problem. So what we need integrated solutions to this, to have a very systematic master planning to encourage participation, to make sure that people are coming together to make things work on the ground. So we need leaderships. Leadership must be there. Okay, some people that knows how to run things, how to carry out of the operations and the plannings must be there as well to lead the initiative. We cannot always depends on the instructions that coming in, maybe from Jakarta, maybe from apa ya, kalau di Brawijaya di mana ya? Apa nama pusatnya di sana ya? Surabaya. Maybe coming in from Surabaya. So we need people on the ground actually. So in terms of the product quality, this is another method that becoming an issue now in terms of how we can set some sort of standards, the minimal standards for hospitality, quality of the experience. Okay, so substandard offerings. Substandard offerings mean that something that is not matching the expectation of tourists. So, in terms of tourists, we also must take into considerations two groups, two big groups. Yeah, one is the domestic tourists, and also the international tourists. Before this, many years ago, we take things into granted. Yeah, we say that domestic tourists they are not expecting much, so we can offer them substandard services. But remember again, nowadays, people being exposed to informations. Okay, even domestic tourists now they able to travel all over the world because of the ease of transportation. Many flight, airlines that offering a budget cost, something that's very cheap that enable people to travel all over the world. So domestic market now actually they are being exposed to different kind of experience, and that can increase their expectation. So we cannot take things granted. for granted to say that domestic doesn't have any expectation. No, things has changed now. Yeah, the tourist has been exposed to the actual experience, and also because of the social media, internets of things, and also all the social platforms, people even without traveling overseas, they have seen many things that becoming their standards. Yeah. So now if they are going into desa, kawasan kampung, they have this kind of expectation and they expect this kind of services. Okay, more so for international tourists. Before that, we thought that international tourists, they have these international standards. But now, remember again, they also wanting to see the authenticity, the authentic experience. So, if you want to see this from the angle of research, you can see this as one of the things, issue that we can address by carry out a very good research on how the different expectations and also the level of satisfaction between domestic and international tourists. So this could be very interesting topics for you to see in the context of Indonesia tourism. Okay. Number three, the human capital, lack of continuous monitoring or also on the competency of the people that on the ground offering the services. So again, we have seen many research on this. For example, many years ago, we have done this total quality management (TQM) on how the perceptions difference, the perceptions on the host side, local community, is much different from the expectation of the incoming visitors. So this kind of the mismatch between the expectation and also the outcome of the experience is something that becoming real issues and could be interesting topic for the research down the road. Okay. So what are the strategic action? I want to share some of the example that we have done in terms of research, in terms of actual programs on the grounds on how we approach these issues that we have presented just now. So one of the key things that we did actually in terms of master planning. Master planning can be many perspective. One thing is in terms of product development. One thing is about community empowerment. One thing is about resource conservation. So this kind of three main themes, tiga perkara utama ini yang sering dijadikan sebagai asas pokok untuk dijadikan sebagai research foundations. Yeah. So what we did actually from the perspective of recreations planner is to do the assessment on the ground. What kind of inventory and assessment that we can see here, ground stage. We normally will go down on the ground to meet the local communities and also authorities and carry out recreation and tourism resource inventory. This is basically by using different kind of frameworks. I will show you in a moment on what kind of things that we can do, instruments, tools that we can use to carry out this inventory. Okay. The second parts of the ground stage normally will involve in terms of situational analysis. This is kind of SWOT analysis. There are different frameworks now. TOWS. This is basically the acronyms for SWOT anyway, but there are different frameworks we can use to carry out situation analysis and competitive advantages. So one of the key things about situational analysis is to find out where you are now as a destination in the mind of tourists. Okay. Mungkin selama ini kita fikirkan bahawa Gunung Bromo, for example, is a very good destination. But the question is, does it good enough to attract international tourists? If not, we have to understand and to find out what happened. Why there is no much discussions about attracting international tourists to Bromo. What are what what are the benefits? What are the rewards that they are looking for? So this is kind of things that another topics for research as well. So in terms of the actual planning stage, the middle of the frameworks here is to come up with the conceptual plan for facility development. I will show you some example of the outcome from this stage. Yeah, whereby actually in order for us to develop new attraction new destinations, one of the key things is to come up with a facility, ya. Kemudahan-kemudahan infrastructure and also resort in term of lodging facilities, in term of kios dan sebagainya, itu boleh dijadikan sebagai conceptual plan. The second part, which is the biggest component and the largest and also the most important part, is tourism product. Okay, when we talk products in tourism, this normally we referring to the experience. Okay, I always say that among the students in our class that we are not in the business of selling crafts. We are not in the business of selling chalets or resort or villas. We are in the business of creating experience. That's the key things. Product tourism equal to experience. So, what kind of experience that people are looking for nowadays? Okay, I think everyone understand the concept of FOMO, fear of missing out. Okay, fear of missing out. When we talk about that in human psychology, is because the pressure for us the pressure for us to indicate to the others, to show off to the others that you are able to do it is very real, especially in now because we have social media pressures. A lot of people are looking for this kind of experience, yeah, fear of missing out. You want also to be the one that involved in that kind of experience. You want to experience that kind of products, yeah. The next things that important as part of master planning is the uh, resource conservation plan. This is something that we keen to take care of for agriculture perspective because as I mentioned earlier, what kind of resources that becoming under threats because of tourism. Okay, normally some of the resources. When we say resources, it's not only on the plantations, it's not only on the farmings, but also on the human side. Okay, resource can be many things. Human resource is another thing. What kind of threats on the human resource? One thing is for sure is how socially tourism can impact the way they live, the way they behave, the way they dress, the way they consume foods. Okay, now because of this kind of pressure, we can see that changes in diets of local community, for example, yeah, at remote areas. Uh, Daripada makanan asas, normal cuisines, makanan-makanan biasa masyarakat Indonesia, they suddenly have to offer international menu, for example, Korean menus, Japanese menus, Western menus. So this kind of changes can also not be so good on the integrity of the local culture. So this is something that becoming a threat that we must come up with a plan to really conserve the resources. Okay, the social, the culture, the humans resources that we need some kind of strategies to conserve that. Okay, altogether, all these things that we have mentioned just now can be put together under one strategic plan. We call it as a marketing plan. Normally, from marketing perspective, all those things must be considered before we come up with new action plan. Yeah, under marketing action plans, and the steps that we just discussed just now normally will come up with some sort of documents. Okay, some sort of documents. What kind of document? I will show you the visual so that you can understand what I'm talking about. But the next stage equally important. The next stage equally important. Why? Because if we just ended our research just on producing a paper and producing a plan, producing a documents, it could be the end of it. Nobody going to touch, nobody going to take actions and so on. Normally, it's only good on your shelf, on your bookshelf, dekat rak buku saja. Habis gitu saja kan. But the next stage is equally important, whereby this is where the entrepreneurships, incubations, business incubations come about. We will discuss this further after this on how we train local community, how we conduct a series of trainings for local community to capture some of the competency and skills. Whether we want to increase their skills as a businessman, we can also increase their competency in terms of marketing and promotions, how to create contents, how to create short videos, how to put up the videos on different platforms, TikToks, Shorts, videos, Facebook, on Instagram, and so on and so forth. So this kind of trainings that is becoming so critical now, because without this, the information about the goodness, the greatness of your products, of your attraction, of your destination will not come across and to get to the intended audience, which is the potential tourists in the future. Okay. All right, this is the things that I mentioned just now in more details. Okay, the steps that we can do. On the top parts, that involve many component of research. Okay, from different frameworks that we can use, different tools, different instruments that we normally do, inventory, visitors and non-visitors market studies. Okay, you going up and to see the actual visitors and carry out and distribute your questionnaires, collecting all the data and do analysis. That is something that we normally do in terms of getting the right informations about visitors and non-visitor market for the area. Secondly, we also conduct the resource inventory by using standard forms that can be modified, that can be amended to suit the resources that we have at that particular site. So this is the one of the information gathering, the primary data gathering. Yeah. So in the middle of that, by having that information, those information can be converted into modules. Those information can be converted into modules as part of the expected outcomes of the research. So there is another stage after the research. We're going to produce books, okay, for the local community, modules for trainings, modules for their guidelines, and also some sort of indications, some kind of booklets that they can use as a guideline for carry on business and also tourism operation on their attractions. Okay. Okay. These are some of these methods and also some of the instruments that we use and also some of the frameworks. The scope is basically statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plans. You have to imagine this is maybe in Indonesia is a kabupaten ataupun apa ya kalau besar daripada kabupaten, some kind of bigger regional areas.
Province? Province.
Province, yeah, wilayah, the province, yeah. So one of the province, you must have this kind of plan. In order for us to develop this kind of plan, of course, you have to go back and see our previous slides on the important for us to carry on the data collections on the ground. So ORI, Outdoor Recreation Resource Inventory, this is a very standard method, a standard instrument for us to carry on the assessment. Assessment on what? Assessment on the resources, assessment on the facilities to support recreation activities for the place. Okay. After that, we'll go for ROS, which is stand for Recreation Opportunity Spectrum. This is basically a zoning. Yeah, zoning. Why zoning? Zoning is important to ensure we're going to minimize conflicts. There are zone for residential. There are zone that we cannot touch. This is basically the core zone whereby the local community live day to day basis. Ini tempat masyarakat desa duduk, menginap, tinggal untuk harian, tidak boleh diganggu. Okay. So we need that kind of core zones that we cannot touch for tourism activities. The second zone, it could be a tourism development whereby the peripheral area, wilayah-wilayah kawasan-kawasan yang sekitar desa yang boleh kita bangunkan untuk kawasan aktiviti. This can help us to reduce conflicts between visiting tourists and also the local community who are staying and living in the area. So that is example of zonings. The second part is laws. Laws is stand for level of recreation services. This is basically to minimize the mismatch between the expectations of tourists and what the community can offer. Okay, basically we want the capacity for local community to offer, to deliver the experience can be within the expectation of the tourists. We cannot have tourists who came visiting the desa, kampung and said, that's it, is that it? Itu sahaja ke? Itu sahaja. So they can becoming less satisfied, and the dangerous part of dissatisfied tourists is because they have the propensity, they are more probability, they are more possible to put up all their comments, all their complaints online. That becoming very, very tricky for us to manage that as a local community. We have to understand that most of the agritourism industry is a small scale, almost like ecotourism. It's small scale, it is manageable by the local community themselves. It cannot be something that is mega size, so big that becoming so hard for local community to offer. Yeah, we visited Yogyakarta earlier this year with a group of students for 10 days. Yeah, and we have seen example of how good some of the attractions for local community. Gua Pindol, for example, I can recall that. Okay, out of nothing, out of nothing, they create something. This is the mantra. This is the important agritourism. From nothing, we must be able to create something. Okay, some of these resources they are very, very mundane. They are very you can say unmeaningful because you are local community. You see that ini kali, ini sungai biasa-biasa saja. Mau bikin apa ini? Contohnya lah, contohnya sungai ini biasa saja, nggak ada apa-apa yang menarik di sini. But for us outsiders, most of the things that you consider as mundane or simple things for us is something that is so special. So we must be able to put ourselves as tourists from outside and try to create something out of nothing. Okay. So the biggest framework of course, this VOREP. VOREP stand for Visitor Outdoor Recreations Experience Plan. This is where everything come about together, from the resource conservations, from the local community empowerment, from the marketing plan, from the product development on hospitality and whatnots, that must be come together as one individual plan. This is what we call as VOREP, Visitor Outdoor Recreation Experience Plan. This is the final master plan. Okay. Okay, and I would like to touch a bit on this. What is the things that we call as meaningful experience? This is the reward, reward ataupun ganjaran suguh, apa yang kita suguhkan, apa yang kita tawarkan can be something that is rewarding experience. This is something that we want to touch and stress a bit on how important it is. Everything that we are offering on sites at our kampung, in our desa, must be something that is of meaningful. One, of course, represent the physical master plan, conserve resources, and map trail, for example. Yeah. So make sure that everything that we have prepared on the ground must be communicated to tourists by any informations platform. It could be in brochures, it could be in digital brochures, it could be in maps form, it could be in social media postings, but they must be informative enough that they can entice, it can convince the tourists to come and visiting your place. Okay. The actors referring to the local communities. The important part is because they must be fully trained to provide hospitality. I have no doubts for Indonesians, orang-orang kampung di Indonesia. They are very nice. They are very soft-spoken. They are very hospitable. They're providing the best services. Okay, so some other countries, yeah, they are not so good in this. They are not so good in this. For example, I had just visited Greece. They are very hard people. Okay, sangat keras. Wataknya sangat keras. Tidak lembut seperti kita di Indonesia dan Malaysia. When we talk with local hosts, to complain, for example, yeah, just to discuss about something very small matter, they always they would like to ask you this, okay? What's your problem? Okay, they like that. For us, Indonesians and Malaysian community, we don't like ask people like that, you know. Apa masalah kamu? Tidak boleh, tidak boleh. They all in Greece, yes, they would like to ask you this, yeah. What's your problem? For them might be this is something normal, but for us, for tourists, this is something that really really very harsh, ya, sangat kasar, bahasanya sangat kasar. Di sini bahasanya sangat kasar. So this kind of things that becoming itself some kind of problem for us. That is why also we have a proper a series of trainings to ensure that similar problem is not happening in our desa ataupun di kampung-kampung kita lah. Okay, so one of the key things that we offer is to carry on with the incubations programs. Yeah, this is beyond research. Okay, this is beyond research. Now we are going into the implication or the applications of research. Okay, as I mentioned just now, from the research we can produce modules. From the research we can produce guidelines. Why? How the guidelines come about? Of course, that come from research. From our findings that indicates what are the threats, what are the constraints, what are the reason people not visiting your place, so that we can convert into some kind of books, guidebooks, buku panduan that can be usable, that can be operated by the local committee in a very simple language, in very straightforward language that can be understood by the local community. Okay, the incubations modules, for example, what kind of topics that we normally touch under this training regime, training programs? One, in terms of product development, how to do product development, how to identify the uniqueness of the resources in your kampung, in your desa, apa yang bagus, how we convert that into a real and meaningful products. And then how to carry out actual marketing and social media posting. We touch local community on how to capture videos and how to convert those videos into social media posting. Whether it is going to use the Facebook, Instagram. Again, we have to identify who are our targets. Okay, young people, they don't use Facebook anymore. Young people most likely they will use Instagram, they will use what's that, yeah, threads, they will use X, or what's that, the Twitters, and so on. Those are the media that is more usable depending on the target groups that you want to have the message go about. Okay. And then one of more important things also on the financial management. Orang kampung, masyarakat desa, some of them they are not so good in managing their financial cash flows, on how to keep some profits and how to uh, reuse the money for their business operations, on how to reinvest some of the profits into some kind of new ventures in the business. So those kind of things that we must be able to provide as a training programs. Yeah, and then of course business operations, how to conduct your business, the how to prepare the rooms, how to conduct your kitchens area, how to prepare your landscape, on how to make sure that the best view is presented to tourists. Those kind of details and minute details. Why? Every details really pay off for tourism experience development. Okay. And then, of course, the hard skill operations. This is how to maintain your places, skills, and importantly, wildlife. The first responder. Okay, this is also important. Nowadays, there's a lot of cases, incidents. People got drowned in the rivers. Some people slip and break their legs. So this kind of wilderness first responder is needed so that we can have emergency cases. Then we have people that can take actions immediately when incidents happen on the grounds. Okay. Soft skills and hospitality. This is how you communicate. The skills to communicate, the skill to entertain the tourists, how to tell the stories. Okay, how to bercerita, pengkisahan, legenda, mitos, those kind of things that becoming a rewarding experience. That must be will need some kind of skills as well. Okay. All right. This is some of the modules that I just mentioned just now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, until 10, 11 modules, different modules. This only example, yeah, example of training regimes that we offered in Malaysia. Yeah, this based on our experience. We just concluded one of the training modules. I think that one in the number 6, yeah, number 6 modules. We done that for one of local communities from one of the national parks in Kuala Tahan, yeah. Kuala Tahan National Parks, module number 6, module number 4, module number 5. There's something that number 7 as well. Those are some of the modules that we can pick. We can pick and put together as a package depending on the needs of that particular communities. Okay. So what normally we do during the training sessions is combinations between lecture sessions, entrepreneurs project, also field trip. Field trip is needed so that we can open up the eyes of the local community. They can see that what are the best practices, other operators that doing the same thing, but they are doing it much better. So the benchmarking, the benchmarking is important for that. So they won't stay in one place stagnant without doing any improvement because they thought that what they are doing is the best one, without seeing more and more places that we are doing. Okay. So the expected outcomes. This is the example of the documents that we produce in terms of master plannings, in terms of product development, in terms of the management of destinations, in terms of the actual products on the ground. Okay, some of the example again, what UPM have done. I think this is something that we can incorporate as part of our collaboration in the future with Brawijaya. These are the things that we have done in terms of the training, the modules that we produce to cover all the aspect of the industry. Okay. And this is the timeline, the normal timeline for community-based incubations process. You know, the theory part, the lecture part is very short, but the application part is more longer, much longer periods, and also the final stage is always coaching. Yeah, coaching is where we going to sit together with the local community to see how they progress, how much they have progressing over time, and what kind of improvement that we can do in order for them to sustain in their businesses. Okay. And this is kind of some example. I'm showing this so that maybe if, let's say, Prof. Azizah, you would be interested to try to find some of the government grant from Indonesia, you can do this template to figure out what kind of cost that needed for us to carry out this kind of programs. Okay. Okay. This is the one that I mentioned earlier during the presentation on the conceptual development of facilities. Ini contohnya di mana kita laksanakan pembangunan products, pembangunan actual facilities on the grounds. Okay, these are example of actual products, actual activities that we develop from zeros. Okay, meaning to say, the local community, they have the resources. For example, they have coconut plantations. They have a small stream, tali air, okay, kali yang sangat bersih. The view itself with the backgrounds of mountains, okay, can be set as a one products. You can offer cycling experience, for example. You allow people to cycle, and to enjoy the scenery, to enjoy the landscape. And that can be part of 1 day or half-day experience. Okay. Another things that can be part of the experience is to see. This is very common. To see the local activities, local villagers to conduct their everyday life, to see how they conduct themselves, and maybe you can also to identify some of these women in your local community that can cook very well. Okay, if they can cook very well, so we can set a module whereby they can have a special sessions for cook together with local tourists or international tourists, for example. Okay, so there is another products. So this all in all is kind of different kind of products that we have set different locality in Malaysia. Yeah. This is another example of new tourism product that we developed in Kuala Tahan. Uh, Kuala Tahan National Parks, one of the concerns or limitations that becoming a problems over the years is because lack of wildlife viewing opportunities. If we go to Kuala Tahan, even though they are being promoted as premier ecotourism destinations, but very seldom, very rare occasion that we can see elephants. We cannot see tigers, for example. We cannot see those wild animals. But about 40 kilometers away from Kuala Tahan, we have abundance of wild elephants. Okay. So this we thought is a good opportunity for masyarakat kampung to develop this kind of wildlife-based experience for people not only to engage, to observe the wild elephant in their habitats. It's becoming a good rewarding experience for international tourists. Okay. I want to say a bit on how we can tell the stories of our kampung. Okay. This is example of our exercise from zero, and we want to create some sort of informations panels. Okay, this is kind of gallery that we is constructed from scratch, from zeros, uh, develop the contents, develop the graphics, and going about to printings and put up as exhibits. Okay, let's say in your kampung, let's say in your desa, there's a lot of pohon beringin. Yeah, pohon beringin, you can tell the stories on how pohon beringin membesar, how pohon beringin have that kind of shapes, and what are the local legends associated with pohon beringin. What kind of mythos and stories that related to pohon beringin? What kind of fruits that pohon beringin produce? Those kind of, information we can convert into this kind of exhibit to tell more stories in creative ways. Yeah, this is what we did in Kuala Lumpur. Botanical gardens, basically telling people the stories of plants, trees, gardens. This is another example of what we did also to produce infographics so that people can understand more about the mythos, the legends that they live by, and also maybe interesting fun facts about kampongs and surrounding resources they have that we can produce inside of booklets, inside of e-brochures, and in this case, we produce in the form of interpretive journals into to do the interpretations of this. Okay, this is example of the contents that we produce. Why I'm showing this is to give you ideas on how you can communicate with local community that interested to tell their stories, to tell their culture, to tell outsiders on their rituals, on their beliefs. So these kind of things that we can do in the simplest form, meaningful forms that easy to remember. Okay. Another thing is do murals. I guess in Indonesia, this is the new things. to tell stories based on to tell the stories in the form of murals. The and one is basically conversions from this is telling the stories about ikan di dalam kuali to tell people that different fish can can end up in the same kuali. This is about div- diversity. Okay, uh, we from the different backgrounds to live together easily because why? Because we are living in the same village. This bahasa converted into murals so that people can see as artworks, as the artworks that they can enjoy. So, as a conclusion, the one that I want to say to the audience today, uh, the importance of agri society. For us in Malaysia and Indonesia, I think we still base much of our activity and economic activity based on agriculture. So it's important for us to be able to diversify the source of income for local community. Case in this regard, we present it as a mean by economy for the local community. And we understand also to do so, more importantly, we must be able to put steps and actions to preserve the integrity of the resources that we have, okay, for the local communities. In the end, what we keen to do is create some sort of very strong, sustainable destinations to offer healthy products that can attract many people, not only domestic, but from in market as well. Okay, so I guess and can share with you this a very short time. We hope that we can see that we see each other physically, face to face in the future, so that we can have more engagement. That we can, to sustain this kind of discussions, to have more impactful outcome for the local committee and also for you guys as a researcher in the future. Okay. Lisa, back to you. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Prof. Azizam. It's very interesting material. And I have three questions. Is it okay?
Okay, it's okay.
Question in a row, yeah. The first one, how do you guarantee the participatory the participation of your society in the program? That's the first one. And the second one, is it possible for us to do like a participatory or action research for that kind of a program? And number three, actually we have we call it UB Forest, like a University of Brawijaya Forest. And I just realized that for several years we are thinking about the products, not the experience. Yeah, yeah. I think there is an opportunity for us to have a joint program in our university, Prof. Azizam. Or maybe is it any opportunity
Yeah,
for
yeah,
us if you do some like a coaching for us? Yeah, that's
yeah,
my questions.
yeah. Okay, right. Okay, the three questions. Thanks, Prof. The first one is on the participatory, how to ensure that
Mm.
on ground can participate. Yeah. So we have seen the challenges over the years when we dealing with people. Yeah. When dealing with people, it's very tricky. First, they won't be joining you because they don't see benefit. They're so busy with everyday lives, their things, they are tending their livestock, they are tending their farms and whatnot. So why would they spend time to go for trainings? But over time, they from the trends, they can improve much on their opportunity to become diversified entrepreneurs. They will start to see that and they will start asking to join the program. We always start off with a small group of people that we consider as the opinion leader. Okay, the kampung leader, not kampung leader, opinion leader. This is very important to differentiate. Opinion
Yeah.
leader are those people, individuals that have very strong opinions about things. We can them, we can put them to train. They will, of course, they will convince others to reach them in the future. Okay. Second question about the on approach. Yeah, we have done as we work for local community. Because uh, right, okay, the on land stronger. So they have a very strong opinions on how to develop their land. So what we have done before is basically to mingle with them off with a small project, let's say perusahaan kopi, yeah, perusahaan kopi. But it's not only planting coffee trees or collecting tree coffee nuts, but how and develop the whole experience from that particular products is basically to invite to show us how you produce and process from the nuts into a real powdered coffee. So this experience is based on the local community activities. So these kind of things that we because local people they don't see things in a broader sense. They just want to produce coffee and that's it. But for us, from to perspective, this is experience. So we have to guide the local community how to expand the experience. So instead of just showing people how, okay, this is coffee, okay, buy coffee, this pack coffee. Instead of just spending 1 hour in your place, they can spend maybe half of the day to participate in that experience. This is what we call as immersive experience. You are doing things together with local communities. To answer your third question, of course, there are a lot of opportunity that we can discuss. In fact, this week we receiving a group from Stipram from Yogyakarta, yeah, Jakarta, to our place, bring them to one of the local communities, far from the bandara, not far from KLIA, to see how collaborates for kind of programs with local community. Yeah, Stipram is coming, and next month also I will be traveling to Medan because this is another collaboration. We are going to do it with cocoa producing community, satu community yang mengeluarkan chocolates, ya, chocolate di kawasan pergunungan di Medan. So we are doing that local university. Inshallah
Mm.
in July. Okay. Right.
Okay. Great. Okay. Okay. I think anak-anak ada yang mau bertanya?
Ya, silakan.
Yeah, I will talk to the director of UB Forest. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We tried batik, we tried coffee industry. We tried soap, organic soaps from coffee, and also balsam from coffee. We already have some patents, but yeah, we try to make our the community to participate in our program, but yeah, I don't think it's a easy one to
Yeah,
do. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, the one you mentioned, let's say to produce soap, right? Sabun.
yeah. Organic soap, yeah,
That
from
can be,
coffee.
yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
can be an activity. It can be an activity that we invite tourists to involve in the process. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we give experience for the
Yeah,
visitors, right? Yeah.
correct.
Mhm.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anak-anak,
yeah.
mas, kan? Jika ada soalan, tanyakan dalam bahasa Indonesia bisa. InsyaAllah, no problem.
Ya, silakan dalam bahasa Indonesia, insya Allah Prof. Azam akan
Ya.
menjawab. Ya. Ya, ini siang hari, Prof.
Aha. Sudah makan belum? Sudah makan belum itu? Makan siang?
Nah, ini mungkin belum makan semua nih. Ini we are in
Aduh,
the
itu ya.
uh, final test period right now. Yeah, so final test weeks. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I
Yes,
think.
so we
Hmm? Oke. Ya, mungkin kalau tidak ada pertanyaan ya, kita bisa mengakhiri materi atau sesi kali ini. Thank you very much, Prof. Azizam. This very fruitful session, especially for me. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think it's also fruitful for our students. And thank you for coming and have a nice days in London.
Inshallah. All the best for your exam, everyone. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam, thank you, bro.
Thank you all.